my name is Rel Klein, and I'm here joined with my mom,
Debbie Paychell.
And this is another episode of Tennis Chatter. And for this one, we're going to talk about different tennis movies. There is not a lot, there's a lack of them, and we're hoping for more. There's like no TV shows with like tennis or just in general, like, you know, the characters playing tennis. So we're just going to talk about some tennis movies. I have a list of tennis movies here, but is there anyone you want to start off with?
Well, we could start off with Wimbledon, since Wimbledon is happening right now.
Yeah, and we just recently watched a movie. It was the second time I've seen it. It was the first time you saw it. So what are your thoughts? Because on this list, that is only the, second it's a rom-com that's tennis related.
It's a rom-com first and a tennis movie second. It's from 2004, I think, so it does feel a little dated, but it still stars Paul Bettany and Kirsten Dunst.
Good. It has a good cast.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks like they probably did prepare for the role, because you know, you don't want to see a tennis movie and then just it looks like they have stand-ins the whole time playing tennis for them.
Yeah.
So it definitely looks like they had the form when they were serving, especially with Paul Bettany. You actually kind of saw him play a little bit, so I bet you he either trained or, you know, plays a little in his real life, and he certainly has the build of a tennis player.
I feel like, I don't know, this was definitely one of the bigger budget tennis movies. So I feel like, I don't know if they were filmed at Wimbledon, we didn't really do research about that, but the courts looked things didn't not look accurate. It didn't make me raise eyebrows, I guess you could say.
It didn't raise red flags for you?
Sometimes when I'm watching tennis movies, it's lower budget and you can just tell the quality's not as good.
Yeah, I mean, I have to believe that they had to get permission from Wimbledon to just even use the name. And if they were going to feature a movie called Wimbledon, they probably had some cooperation. Obviously, they filmed it off season. And you think about it, I don't know, it's the, what is it called? The Gentleman's Club or something? The All English Gentlemen's Club. So, you know, there's probably some use off season at the club, but it's a way to promote the club and promote Wimbledon in a positive light. Yeah. So it looked, at least I'm sure some of it was shot in different locations, not really there, but it looks like some of the exterior shots and logo placement and everything was pretty authentic.
Yeah, in my opinion, I thought it was it's not the greatest movie ever, but it was a really good tennis movie and it's enjoyable, and so I give it the thumbs up. What about you?
I thought it was sweet. You know, it was a sweet rom-com, but it felt a little dated.
You gotta say your favorite line.
Oh, yes. Actually, it had a brilliant line, I will say. Because let me just preface it by saying one of the most famous movie quotes ever was from a movie that you're too young to know called Love Story with Ryan O'Neal and, oh my God, I'm forgetting, Ali McGraw. And she's, this is not a spoiler, she's dying of cancer. Well, there's something that happens earlier in the movie too, and the big line is, love means never having to say you're sorry. So that's a major quote, anybody who knows.
So we're back to the line.
So they're having, you know, there's always that scene where there's conflict between the two main characters, and
we should also say spoilers for any tennis movie. These are spoilers.
Yeah. So, of course, I can't even remember their character's name, but Paul Bettany says
I can't remember their name.
To Kirsten Dunst about love, and she basically, I know what had happened. So they get together, you know.
You can just say the line. I don't know why you got it.
Well, you have to say
okay, whatever.
So they hook up the night before an important match for her, and she loses the match, and she's furious because she felt like she stayed out late, and she was up with him late,
it takes her off her game.
Right, so she's not like doing what she should do.
Because this movie does get into like a little bit of like the mentality of your mental state, which is, as we say, is the most important thing in tennis.
So anyway, he said something like it has to do with love, and she's like, it has nothing to do with love. She said, in tennis, love means zero, or love means nothing, because it's zero. It equals zero. And that's true. Like when you say 40 love, 30 love, 15 love, love equals zero in tennis. So there was too long a setup, but it was a really good line where she said like, love means nothing.
Love means nothing. It's zero. That's the quote. Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the next tennis movie. Should I just name a tennis movie?
Sure. Okay.
So Battle of the Sexes. I've seen this movie twice. You've seen it how many times?
Once.
But it's been a few years. But I think what's interesting about this list of tennis...
Who's starring in it, though? That's important, because you have major actors in this one.
Emma Stone.
Yeah, and Steve Carell.
Yeah. No, but I was going to say is half the movies on this list are like based off like real true stories, and so this is one of them. And for those, I guess, who don't know, well, now I'm forgetting their names.
Billie Jean King?
No, I know Billie Jean King. What's Steve Carell's character's name?
Oh, it's, oh my God.
But anyway, so it's based off a true story where, this was basically when the ATP and the WTA was created. And they created the WTA because they were, weren't going to be making the same as the men. And so they created their own tour. And so there's like all this controversy. This is kind of when like, I'm explaining it bad, but this retired tennis player was like, I could beat Billie Jean King or something. Then they had this match. She prepared. He didn't really prepare.
Yeah. So Battle of the Sexes, it's based on a real life event. Billie Jean King was obviously a phenomenal tennis player, but in like a lot of sports, women were really cast in the shadows as tennis players. They really were not given much credit, and they were not given equal pay, which is a big thing that's brought out in this movie.
Well, this is about the start of the ATP and WTA, which is why those organizations are separate.
So anyway, she got into, and I can't remember now. See, I should have seen this again more recently, because I don't remember how the kind of feud started and where they ended up challenging. Let me see if I can find it. The exhibition tennis match.
Well, didn't he originally play a different
20th, 19th?
So I might be wrong because it has been a while, and this is history. You could easily look it up. But didn't he originally play like another woman tennis player who was like number one at the time, because Billie Jean King was actually number two. Like she lost to this other woman, and I think he originally played her. And he beat her.
Yeah.
This other woman. Court. Yeah. But anyway, I felt like, it has been a few years, but I feel like that movie is just so Hollywood styled that it's just like, yeah, this is like a movie about like a historical event and like it's good and stuff, but like, I guess it gives some representation to tennis. Like, it's not a movie that like sticks with you, I guess. Like, it doesn't make you think too much, which is probably what they want, but it doesn't have the effect because we're literally forgetting everything, and maybe I watched it like 2 years ago. I don't know. But do you have any other thoughts about the movie before we move on to another tennis movie?
It's very, very historically significant, and it has, top-rated actors and a good script, and I think it, it kind of, as I said, also highlights the inequality and the start of the ATP and trying to get equal rights and equal pay for female tennis players. And I think more than a Wimbledon and some of the other tennis ones, this probably has, because of the stars and the way that it was produced, has more mass appeal. So it's definitely very tennis oriented and showing kind of the behind the scenes lives of tennis players. and behind the scenes in terms of the tennis organizations, but probably out of all the movies on our list has the most mainstream appeal.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that Emma and Steve both prepared for the role. Like, they did learn tennis, and like back then, like, this is what the 70s, like, the style of tennis is so different. It is a lot coming to the net. So, like, when they're watching, they're believable. But I think let's move on. So the next movie I have on my list is Sporn versus Mcenroe, which is my favorite tennis movie, and I've seen it twice. I made my mom here watch it recently, and I think it's my favorite. It's also again about an historical event, and I like heard the Battle of the Sexes before I saw that movie, but like I never really knew. Like, I knew John McEnroe, but I didn't know Bjorn Borg, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Like, I didn't know that, and I didn't know their whole, this particular match that was at the end and everything that led up to it. And I think I really like this movie because they did, like, both these actors really prepared, really learned how to play tennis. I think tennis is also, like, with any sport, it's so hard to shoot. And I feel like the cinematographers or the directors, like, they took the time. They probably spent hours, not hours, you know what I'm saying, like weeks shooting that, like, final match. And I think also what's really great about this film is it shows how much tennis is a mental sport. It, like, really gets into the mentality. And because it has flashbacks from both the characters when they were younger, and it kind of shows, like, tennis is such a mental sport, and this film really shows it. And I feel like this is a film that sticks with you, and I feel like it's a film that, like, non-tennis fans should watch and, like, to understand tennis. And it has less of that mainstream Hollywood, like, appeal, because it is trying to show something and everything. I'm going on and on, but what were your thoughts about this movie?
So actually I have to agree with you. It was my favorite tennis movie too, because it felt the most authentic, and I feel it was a really good character study. Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name, who plays John McEnroe. I think he did a really good job. Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, whatever.
But he obviously had a lot of tape and film to watch of John McEnroe, and John McEnroe was quite a character. But it also showed a little bit of why he was the way he was, and his family life growing up, and how he was always expected to be a high performer. And there were little things on like him in the hotel room. So even though he was like a partier, and it showed that aspect of his lifestyle, it also showed how he had this whole strategy plan and all these algorithms written on the walls of his hotel room. So he was definitely like a thinker, a planner, a strategist. And then conversely with Borg, he had his whole mental method, and he was very superstitious, and he had very, like, specific, his bag had to be laid out exactly the same way every single time, and that was the job of his girlfriend. And rackets had to be like tested beforehand and laid out on the floor, and like everything had to be just so. It showed him as a little boy and how he started by just hitting a tennis ball against the side of a garage. I mean, it was, I think, a little bit more of a sneak peek behind the scenes of what made these tennis players great. And it just, I thought, was well done, because I developed my interest in tennis later, so I really wasn't familiar with, I mean, obviously I knew about John McEnroe and Borg being, having great records and everything, but it was interesting just to see really what made them, and the competitiveness, and that was kind of, I think, a time when tennis started really changing as a sport. So yeah, I have to say.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our next movie, King Richard. This is probably like the most like recent big tennis movie, also based off a true story. It seems like they put more money into tennis movies that are based off true stories. But anyway, this is about Serena and Venus Williams' dad and him, like, training them. Will Smith played King Richard, He won the Oscar for it. So my thoughts about this film is like it was okay, but I was also just like felt like it was a little bit overhyped. It was weird to see them focus so much on Venus because, you know, like Serena's my favorite tennis player, and as people in society, we know they're both great, but, you know, we see Serena, and it's just like, it's weird, and like, I mean, like, I don't know, like, I was just like, I don't know, maybe because I was like, I don't know, I was just like mad about it. Like, what were your thoughts?
You know, it's funny because I forget that it's a tennis movie because I really felt like it was more about their father, right? And, you know, it's a good story in that they kind of came up through being middle class family and they didn't have all the perks of, and they show that in the movie, how they had to practice in the local park versus going to some ritzy tennis club. I mean, they were not.
Well, tennis is just like a really like expensive sport.
Yeah, I think it's just more of how he had the persistence to say, I know my daughters are talented and I don't come from money and I don't, you know, have a fancy tennis club membership, but I know they're talented and I'm going to get them seen. And it was his persistence that made it pay off. And it purposely ends with sort of, you know, Venus going out to really rise in her career, because that's what I think the thing was. It wasn't.
Well, because Venus is older than Serena. So, okay.
It wasn't about Venus and Serena's story. It was about their dad's story. And so that's to me why it didn't even feel like a tennis
But
movie.
that's like what doesn't make sense is like why we should have a story about Venus. Like, I know there's documentaries and stuff about them, but like there should, like, why is the focus of the dad? Like in the end, like even like Amy Schumer made that joke at the Oscars, like it's like we're all this stuff about women, but like, oh no, we made a movie about Venus and Serena's dad. Like, why is the movie about the dad? Like in the end, like, I don't know. Okay, let's move on to Breakpoint, which is a movie that we watched together recently. And I thought that was also a kind of cute movie because the two actors in it actually played tennis. And it was about these two brothers coming together to playing doubles. And I felt like it was just like kind of like a lighthearted tennis movie. I feel like maybe that's like, even though Borgen versus Mcenroe is like my favorite tennis movie, that like might be harder to attract new tennis fans. I feel like these lighthearted tennis movies like Wimbledon and Breakpoint are kind of more ways to attract more tennis fans. And so I feel like we need more movies like this. And like that's the interesting thing about doubles rather than singles, is that like it does bring people together. It does add conflict and everything. And so like I enjoyed this movie. There wasn't anything particularly like I was like, but what about you?
I thought it was like a, you know, light, small, independent film. Jeremy Sisko stars in it, who's been in a couple of movies, and he was in a season or two of Law and Order. And then the other guy, oh my God, I forget his name, but he was in, what's it called?
New Girl. He was in a series regular, though. He was just like, he was just in a few episodes.
Regular, but when I read about it, they actually both were tennis players, you know, and maybe they played in high school or even college, I can't remember, but they both were, you know, genuinely had played tennis and were tennis fans. So, you know, and it's also kind of one of those stories about like, and this happens on a much larger scale in tennis, but at what point do you realize I can't make it? I'm not good enough to make it, and I'm old enough that I need to then figure out what my next step in life is. And I think, you know, on a much larger scale, that's really true in life for a lot of athletes, because these sports, you really peak when you're young. And so when you get to, and I forget how old he was supposed to be in the movie, you know, in his mid to late 30s, and here he is, he's still on a very amateur level. Like, at what point do you say, gee, I'm going to keep trying and trying versus I need to move on with my life? So, Yeah, I thought that, it was just kind of a pleasant, sort of coming of age movie in that sense. So.
Okay. So now I have 4 movies, none of that I think you saw. They were kind of all bad. 16 Love, I watched many years ago, so I don't remember, but I think it's about a girl who's 16 who gets injured, and she like kind of spent her kind of entire life like training. So now she like gets the opportunity to be like kind of more of a teenager, but I think, and then she like plays tennis anyway. I can't even remember if it was doubles or singles, but it was like on the cheaper end. It was like, obviously I can't remember much because it wasn't that good. Second Serve, don't remember that much either. One of the people from Shameless was in it. I think it was about like this like tennis pro, and they call tennis pros people who like are tennis coaches at clubs or whatever. And I think he was just like teaching like, trying to like build a team, and he got caught for betting actually. He like bet against himself for a match or something. But then he ended up winning the match, so he like lost money. But I don't know if he got in trouble for that. I can't remember. It's not that good of a movie. First one I watched recently actually, and that one wasn't too bad. It was about a woman who, I guess something happened when she was on a reality show. So she lost her job, and but she was working in real estate, so she got this job at a real estate office where like the boss was like so obsessed with tennis. It reminded me of you. Like she literally was so obsessed with tennis. And then she kind of like hides her identity, but then she like kind of builds trust from her boss because she like will be her doubles partner in tennis. But then she like also like decides to do like this like tennis class with these like other tennis women.
What is this called?
First one in. I watched it recently, but like,
is that a recent movie or an old movie? I never even heard of it.
I think it was in the past few years. Huh. And then they like compete against the realty office. I don't know. Anyway, although like some aspects of the idea, like the fact that she had to hide her identity, like it was just like some like I think I got what the film was hoping to go for, which actually kind of reminds me a little bit of Second Serve. So I think the execution was bad of it, and also the way the people played tennis, they were awful. Even the players that were supposed to be good at tennis, like you could tell, like it's so easy to tell when you're watching tennis movies or anything, even like if you're watching a show or something, because actually in just like that, there's this scene when Charlotte's playing tennis, like you can like, when you're watching anything to do with tennis and you understand, you can tell when the actors don't know tennis, like don't know how to play tennis, because it's all about their stroke and their form. You can tell. And so like this First One In movie, like all the players that are supposed to be good at tennis, like their strokes were awful. Like you can just tell.
Do you know what's so funny? Karen Lynn Gorney was in that. Oh, got 100% of Rotten Tomatoes though. Got 100%.
Wow.
Tomatoes.
How could that get 100% on Rotten Tomatoes?
Karen Lynn Gorney was in it, who's very famous from Saturday Night Fever.
Okay, I don't know who that is.
Oh, I'll have to try and watch that one.
Okay. And then 40 Love, it's not, I think there's a good 40 Love movie. This is the bad one that came out last year, where this guy, he's just like, I know tennis stats and stuff. So then he goes on the road trip with this girl to New York. And so the first half of the movie doesn't even have tennis, and then he like, just like, kind of gets, and he's like, this tennis player, I'm going to be her coach, and then he all of a sudden is her coach, and he's like helping. It's just like, it was just kind of, like, it's just dumb. It doesn't make sense. Like, it's just so, like, never going to happen, like a dumb movie. It had barely anything to do with tennis, and also in that movie, not only did the actress look like she didn't play tennis, like, they obviously didn't have, like, a tennis coordinator on set that can, like, teach them, like, don't, like, it was bad. Anyway, but, okay, so we've kind of gone through all the movies. There's this other movie called Final Set that came out, but I can't find it anywhere to watch it. And that one looks like it could be better than some of these other movies. But
I didn't talk about the, which I haven't seen in a million years, but the 7 Days in Hell.
Oh, is that considered a tennis movie though?
It's the one with Adam Sandler with the match that never ends. Or was it Andy Samberg? Sorry, Andy Samberg. I always get them confused.
I think Andy Samberg and Kit Harington. But
Andy Samberg and Kit Harington. Yeah, I didn't realize Kit Harington.
That was a movie. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a comedy mockumentary. They called it.
Anyway, so what we're kind of saying is there needs to be more tennis movies, and they need to be better. Because there's just such a lack of it. Or even like on any TV show, like they just need characters playing tennis. Like you think of all these teen shows, you know, One Tree Hill, like, and I'm forgetting other teen shows. I don't know, like even now with Riverdale or whatever, All American, like all these shows, like they play basketball or football, or even I think in some shows they play baseball. What TV shows do they have where the actors play tennis? Like, there are none. So there's just such a lack of it. And I know right now there's this movie that they're filming where Zendaya, where she's a tennis coach or something. So hopefully that will be good, and hopefully that will have more people, you know, taking notice in tennis. Do you have any other last thoughts, Mom?
No, I mean, there's some other little movies I'm seeing, like Tennis Buddies and stuff, but well, it's on Hulu that we can watch, but no, there hasn't been anything spectacular. I'm still waiting for that Alice Marble movie.
What?
Alice Marble.
What does that mean?
Alice Marble was a tennis player who was also believed to be a spy. And there was, remember I told you there was books about her, and then there was a script in development, and I don't know if it ever went anywhere. It's a really good story. We should develop it with nobody else.
Well, thank you guys for listening. Comment below your favorite, oh my God, I can't speak. Comment below your favorite tennis movie. Okay, thank you. Bye.